All right, so this is our last video of this unit, last video of the semester, can you believe it? And it's going to be all word problems, lucky you. So before we dive into these word problems, I do want to take a minute and just recap on our elimination method. So take a minute and try this review/ignite on your own. So you should have noticed that the second equation, if I multiply that by 2, that'll give me the same coefficient for x. And so I just kind of cross that out. I've now changed it. And then I decide whether or not we're going to add or subtract our two equations. And if I subtract, then the x's will cancel. Now 7 minus negative 10, it's minus a negative, so we end up adding. And 30 minus negative 72, let's see, is 102. And when we divide that by 17, that gives me a y value of 6. So then to solve for x, we could just go ahead and plug it into that equation. So we've got 4x plus, and then 7 times 6 is 42, is equal to 30. I'll subtract 42 to the other side and divide by 4, and you get an x value of negative 3. And so your answer as an ordered pair is negative 3 and 6. So in our first word problem, it says at a school party, Mr. Lewis bought 1 adult ticket and 2 child tickets for $10. Mrs. Vroom bought 2 adult tickets and 3 child tickets for $17. We're going to write a system in order to figure out the cost of each ticket. So if I don't know the cost of each ticket, that's how we define our variables. So x will be the cost of an adult ticket, and y will be the cost of a child ticket. And what we'll do is essentially write these two equations of these two scenarios. One where Mr. Lewis is buying a ticket and one where Mrs. Vroom is buying a ticket. So part B says we'll write the system of equations. And so I write the first situation where 1 adult ticket was bought plus 2 children tickets for a total of $10. So that was Mr. Lewis. Then Mrs. Vroom Mrs. Vroom buys 2 adult tickets and 3 child for 17. So there's my system. And then we can choose how we want to solve. Well, because it is set up so nicely, so x plus 2y is equal to 10, and then the 2x plus 3y is equal to 17. How nice would that be just to solve through elimination? It's lined up already, right? So I would take that top equation, I'm going to multiply it by 2, and I'll get 2x plus 4y is equal to 20. One of the biggest mistakes is that we don't multiply to that 10, so make sure you do that. And then I'll decide whether or not I'm going to add or subtract. And let's see, it looks like if I subtract, that's what will cancel out my x values, or variable. So then I'll do 3y minus 4y, that's negative 1y is equal to, and then 17 minus 20 is negative 3. And when I divide by negative 1, I get a y value then of positive 3. So that means the cost of a child ticket is $3. So to find the cost of an adult ticket, okay, why don't we take the 3 and we'll plug it in. Whoops, I take that back. Not in for x. We'll plug that in for y. So we'll do x plus, well, 2 times 3 is 6, is equal to 10. And if I take 6 away from 10, that leaves me with 4. So that means an adult ticket is worth $4. And don't forget your units. So then it goes on to say, well, how much would it cost to buy 5 child tickets and 10 adult tickets? Well, if I know child tickets are $3, I'll do 5 times 3 plus, okay, 10 adult, which costs $4, will give me my answer. This is 15, this is 40, and so your answer would be $55. So let's look at the next question. So it says John and Ariana bought school supplies. John spent $10.65 on 4 notebooks and 5 pens. Ariana spent $7.50 on 3 notebooks, 3 pens. What is the cost of a notebook and pen? So what they're asking me, the cost of a notebook, so cost of a notebook and pen are my variables. So I would say x will be cost of a notebook, just because they kind of state that first. And then we'll say y is the cost of a pen. And so now we can go ahead and write our system, and basically it's just two different scenarios. So we'll talk about John's first. So he bought 4 notebooks and 5 pens for a total of $10.65. Whereas Ariana bought 3 notebooks and 3 pens for a total of $7.50. And so that would be my system. And so now I can go ahead and solve. That's that part C. I'll just do that right here. So to solve through elimination, I want my coefficients to be the same. We'll just work with x. So I'll multiply the top equation by 3, because then that will give me a coefficient of 12 for x. And then I'll multiply the bottom equation by 4. So let's see, 3 times 4x is 12x, times the 5 is 15. And let's see, $10.65 times 3 is $31.95. And then I'll multiply the 4 into the second equation. That'll give me 12x, and 12y is equal to, so $7.50 times 4 is, precisely 30. And now I'll decide whether I'm adding or subtracting, and I will subtract, because that's what will eliminate my x's. 15 minus 12 is 3y, and then $31.95 minus 30 is $1.95. And finally, I'll divide by 3. Let's see, 195 divided by 3 gives me 65 cents. So y is equal to 65 cents. Now, what is this? This is the cost of, well, we said y was pens, so this is the cost of 1 pen. So then to find the value of a notebook, I'm going to take that information, I'm going to plug it into one of the equations up at the top. I'll just do the very first one. So I'll do 4x plus, okay, so let's see, 5 times 65 cents is going to give me $3.25 is equal to $10.65. Then I'll subtract the 325 over, minus 325. So let's see, so 10, I don't want to mess up, 65 minus 325 is going to give me $7.40. And we'll divide everything by 4, and I get x is equal to $1.85. So put that here as well. $1.85, which is the cost of a notebook. All right, let's go on to the next page. So third example. See, there's so many different type of word problems. It's just best that we just keep trying different ones. So it says the cost to rent a video game from Action Video is $2 plus 50 cents per day. So I'm going to underline that. That's pretty important. The cost to rent a video game at somewhere else is $1 plus 75 per day. After how many days will the cost of renting a video game cost the same? So we want to know after how many days. I'm going to put that actually in red, because this is how we know what we're looking for in defining our variables. How many days will the cost of renting, so will the cost be the same? Okay, so I'm going to say y is going to be total cost, and I will say x will be the number of days. And I did that just because, well, I'm thinking the number of days is going to have an effect on the total cost, right? So the y depends on x. So now I can write a system. So let's do the first equation will describe Action Video, okay? So the cost to rent at Action Video is $2 plus 50 cents per day. Or you could put 0.50. Then we've got TV rentals. Their equation would be $1 plus 75 cents per day. And so I see I have my system. Now this is a perfect example where we could solve through substitution. If that's the value for y, let's plug it in down there. So I've got 2 plus 0.5x is equal to 1.75x. Whoa, hold on. Let's just hold the phone here. I made a mistake. Gotta find my eraser. Give me a second. Here we are. So that's 1 plus 0.75x. That looks a lot better, right? I'll get my variables to one side. So this leaves me with 2 is equal to 1 plus 0.25x. I'll subtract 1 over. I kind of ran out of room, so I get 1 is equal to 0.25x. And we'll divide by 1/4. And we get x is 4. Well, thankfully, I define my variables because that means 4 days. Now, to find the cost, let's take that 4 and we'll plug it in for any equation. Let's plug it in for the top one. Let's just do that. So let's see. I know that we'll do 2 plus 0.5 times 4. Well, that's just 2 plus 2, and so my cost is 4. Okay, so y would equal $4. So in part C, we're going to take this one step further. It says, well, how many days? Oh, no, I'm just kidding. Solve for how many days will the cost of running a video be the same for both? Okay, so that's what I did here. All right, so another type of word problem, number 4, says your teacher is giving you a test worth 100 points. Okay, that looks like a total, so I'm going to underline it. And there's a total of 20 questions. There's another total. There are 3, I thought that was 3. There are 4-point and 6-point questions on the test. How many of each type of questions are there on the test? Okay, well, we've got 2 different types of questions, right? We've got, what was it? There are 4-pointers, and then there are 6-point questions. Okay, I'm gonna put questions here so we know what we're talking about. Questions and questions. So my first equation would be, well, the total amount of 4-point questions plus the 6-point would be a total of 20. And it's kind of like money in the next equation where I'm gonna now put their worth. So the 4-pointers are obviously worth 4 points, and then the 6-pointers totaling 100 points. So here is my system. And then I always prefer elimination. So I would go ahead and multiply the top equation by 4, giving me 4x plus 4y is equal to 80. We'll go ahead and subtract, so my x's cancel. I'm left with 2y is equal to 20, and so that gives me a y value then of 10 6-point questions. And if I have a total of 20 questions, well, then that would make then 10 4-point questions. So I think the hardest part is just setting this up. And then example number 5. I'm going to zoom in on this so I've got more room. So it says, suppose you invest a total of $1,496 in equipment to put pictures on t-shirts. Okay, I don't really care about what this is, okay? You buy each t-shirt for a total of $3. After you have placed the picture on a t-shirt, then you sell it. Okay, so it's another scenario. Then we sell it for 20. How many t-shirts? Okay, so I'm going to use a highlighter here. Let's see if I can find one. How many t-shirts must you sell to break even? Okay, so then I'm going to say that my variables will be, y will be break even point or cost. Even point slash cost, okay, slash profit. Okay, right? Because we want your profit and your cost to be the same. That's what we call a break-even point. And then X is going to be the number of t-shirts. So we're going to compare how much does it cost me to make and what is my profit going to be. Those are the 2 scenarios, okay? So to make these t-shirts, they told me, well, I'm going to change my color here, so that my total investment would be, there's that $1,496 just to purchase the equipment, plus $3 a shirt, right? But then we're going to try and profit, and so I'm going to turn around and sell it for $20 per t-shirt, okay? So now, that's my system, and so I can use substitution. So if this is the value of y, let's just plug it in for y here. So I'll do 20x is equal to 1,496 plus 3x. Then I'll subtract 3x to both sides. That gives me 17x is equal to 1,496. And finally, divide both sides by 17. I'm going to be honest, I don't know that off the top of my head. So 1,496 divided by 17 gives me 88. And because we defined our variables, I know that that's 88 t-shirts. And then my break-even dollar amount, I would find that by plugging, how easy would that be? To just plug it into the y equals 20x. So 88 times 20 gives me $1,760 is my break-even point.